The massive Galactic Council station hung in the dark space like a silent giant, its lights flickering softly against the black void. Hundreds of alien species gathered here, their shapes and colors as different as the stars themselves. Today was unlike any other day. A new force was arriving. The Deathworlders. No one had seen the Deathworlders in centuries. Their planet was known as a place so deadly and harsh that few dared to approach. Many whispered about the Deathworlders with fear and suspicion. They were strong, fierce, and unyielding survivors of a world where only the toughest lived. But now, they came to the Galactic Council with a single message. They wanted peace. Commander Kale, leader of the Deathworlder delegation, stood tall on the bridge of their ship, the Iron Resolve. His dark eyes scanned the stars as the council station grew larger on the view screen. "Ready to dock, Commander?" said his second-in-command. Lyra, her voice calm but tense. Kale nodded. "This is our chance to prove who we are, not monsters, but protectors." Inside the council chamber, representatives from dozens of species whispered nervously. The news of the Deathworlders' arrival had spread quickly. Some saw them as a threat. Others were curious. Few trusted them. Council Leader Vorn, a tall alien with translucent skin that glowed faintly, raised his voice to quiet the room. The Deathworlders return after centuries of isolation. Welcome them to present their intentions. But let it be clear, any act of aggression will be met with full force. Murmurs of agreement filled the chamber. Suspicion hung thick in the air. As the Iron Resolve docked, the massive doors hissed open. Kale and his team stepped into the council chamber, their armor gleaming but worn. The room fell silent. Kale spoke firmly. "We come not to conquer, but to stand with you. Our world has changed, and so have we. The threats to the galaxy grow every day. Together, we can stop them." Some representatives remained unmoved. A tall alien named Shar from the Harnock species stood up, his voice sharp. "Your people have a history of violence and destruction. Why should we believe you now?" Kale met Zars. "Gaze without fear, because we are here. We face the same enemies. We have suffered too, and we are ready to fight for peace." Just as the tension in the room reached its peak, alarms blared through the station. "Attack! Incoming ships detected." Near the outer colonies, a council guard shouted. Chaos erupted. Screens showed multiple vessels firing on small, peaceful colonies near the border of council space. Blame quickly turned toward the Deathworlders. Whispers spread. "It's them. They've returned to bring war." Kale's jaw tightened. "Didn't attack. Someone wants to start a war and uses us as a scapegoat." The council quickly called an emergency meeting. Kale volunteered to lead an investigation to find the real attackers. Lyra joined him. "If we fail, the galaxy will turn against us forever." Kale nodded. "Then we must succeed." Meanwhile, hidden deep in the shadows, a dark figure watched the chaos unfold on a distant screen. The Syndicate, a secret group with their own plans to control the galaxy, smiled coldly. They blamed the Deathworlders. Perfect. The council chamber was no longer quiet. After the sudden attack on the outer colonies, panic spread like fire. Screens showed burning cities, fleeing civilians, and rising death counts. The names of the attacked colonies flashed in red. These were peaceful places, science hubs, farming stations, never built for defense. Commander Kale stood before the Galactic Council, surrounded by a storm of accusations. "You say you seek peace," shouted Shar of the Harnack species. "But everywhere you go, destruction follows." Kale's face remained calm, but his voice carried weight. "We were with you when the attacks happened. We had no contact with those colonies." "Someone wants us blamed." Lyra stepped forward. "The timing is too perfect. This isn't war, it's manipulation." The room was tense. Some listened. Others looked ready to vote for war. Back aboard the Iron Resolve, Kale met with his core team, Lyra, Jox, and a tech expert named Relo. The ship was silent, orbiting Viridia as the Deathworlders prepared their next move. Kale pointed at the star map glowing on the table. "The attacks came from these zones," he said. But the raiders vanished quickly. Too quickly. Rilo tapped the map. I've been tracking signal patterns. The attackers used old Earth tech, but modified. Jox narrowed his eyes, trying. To make it look like us? Exactly, Relo replied. It's a frame job. Kale clenched his fist. Then we find the truth. We'll need to go beyond council space. The council won't like it. But we're already guilty in their eyes. Their ship jumped into hyperspace. Heading to the edges of known territory, dark sectors where pirates, smugglers, and mercenaries ruled. These were places even the council feared. In a ruined outpost called Sendar's Edge, they met a contact. A four-armed smuggler named Dren who once worked for the Syndicate. He welcomed them with a crooked smile. Dangerous time to be Deathworlders. Kale ignored the insult. We're looking for Syndicate ships disguised as Earth-class vessels. Dren laughed. Oh, they've been busy. Someone paid them big credits to make it look like you're starting a war, who? Kale demanded. Dren paused. All I know is a name, the Ember Chain. Old, powerful. Not just pirates. They want to burn the galaxy and rebuild it in their image. Before they could ask more, the outpost shook violently. The Syndicate strike team had followed them. Ambush, Jock shouted. The Deathworlders fought back with brutal precision. Lyra rolled behind cover, firing bursts with calm focus. Jox charged. Forward, hand to hand, crushing attackers with sheer force. Kale dragged Dren to safety. But not before the smuggler was shot. With his last breath, Dren whispered, They're going to hit Viridia next. From the inside, back on the ship. Kale stood silently in the medbay. Dregan's words echoed in his mind. They're already inside, Lyra said, checking her scanner. The council's own guards. One of them might be Syndicate. Kale looked at the stars outside the window. They don't just want war. They want the council to collapse. The clock was ticking. The Deathworlders had only days to uncover the Ember Chain's plan, find the spies within the council, and stop the next attack. But time was not on their side, and neither was the galaxy. The stars above Viridia looked peaceful, but the planet below was a ticking bomb as the Iron Resolve returned to council space. Kale stood on the command deck, staring at the glowing blue world. His voice was steady, but his thoughts raced. We're wrong, he said. The real threat isn't coming from outside. It's already here. Lyra stood beside him, tapping through the data they had pulled from the Sender's Edge outpost. The Ember Chain, she said. They're not just pirates. They've placed agents inside the council. High-level ones. Kale nodded. They're planning something big. Another attack. One that could destroy the council from within. Inside the council tower, the tension had grown thicker. Since the outer colony attacks, fear ruled more than logic. Soldiers patrolled the halls. High council members spoke in whispers. Alliances were breaking apart. Some species were already calling for war. Kale and his team arrived under heavy guard. Most council members looked at them with suspicion. A few, like Counselor Laran of the peaceful Alari, still believed in their innocence, but even she looked tired. You shouldn't have come back, she told Kale in a quiet corner of the hall. Many think you were behind the last attack, Kale leaned in. I have proof that the real enemy is here inside. Your walls. Laren's eyes narrowed. Then show me. Quickly. That night, Kale's team split up inside the tower. Lyra and Relo went to the council archives to trace signal logs, encrypted communication between someone in the council and the Ember Chain. Kale and Jox went to the lower levels to the security control center, looking for hidden surveillance files and personnel changes. What they found chilled them. Council guard logs had been erased for the last 6 days. One name kept appearing. Captain Marin, head of internal security. Trusted, respected, but also someone no one had seen in 2 days. Meanwhile, in the dark archives, Lyra decrypted a message. Her face froze as the words appeared on her screen. Initiate Phase 3. Detonate core. Blame the humans. Collapse the vote. Ember Chain Operative 77, she called Kale immediately. They're going to blow up the council tower. During tomorrow's unity vote, Kale moved fast. We confront Marin now. No delays. Jocks broke into Marin's private office deep in the tower. The room was quiet, too quiet. Then Marin appeared, not surprised. "Not innocent? You're too late," Marin said coldly. "Peace was always a lie. The council is weak. Galaxy needs fire to become strong again." Kale raised his blaster. "The galaxy doesn't need monsters." A brutal fight broke out. Marone was no ordinary soldier. He was enhanced, his arms strong as metal. But Jocks slammed into him like a boulder, and Kale delivered a precise shot to his shoulder, dropping him. They found the device hidden beneath his desk, a compact core bomb, enough to destroy the tower and everyone inside. The next morning, during the Council's Unity Summit, Kale stood before them again. This time with the evidence, he showed the messages, the recordings. The bomb, many in the chamber went silent. Council leader Vorn looked shaken. "One of our own planned this." Kale's voice was strong. "We came to help. We've risked everything to protect what you're trying to build." It was no applause, just silence. Then one by one, the counselors stood, not to accuse, but to respect. For the first time in history, the Deathworlders were no longer feared. They were trusted. But as Kale and his team returned to their ship, Rilo looked pale. "There's one more thing," he said. "The Ember Chain. This wasn't their final plan." Kale's jaw tightened. "Then we find the next one." The Council Tower had been saved, but the galaxy was still far from peace. On the bridge of the Iron Resolve, Commander Kale stared at the star map flickering before him. The locations of recent attacks were now glowing red, each one a target of the Ember Chain. The enemy wasn't just causing chaos anymore. They were building something. "A pattern," Lyra said quietly beside him. "They're not random. Each target has a reason." Rello pointed at the glowing points. Power stations, relay beacons, old military outposts, all along a single route. Kale's eyes narrowed. "A supply line." Gus growled. "They're preparing for war." The Council had allowed the Deathworlders to act freely now, unofficially. There was still hesitation, but after the last attack, trust had started to form, not complete, not yet, but enough. Kale sent a private message to Counselor Liran. "We're going dark. We'll bring you proof, one way or another." Their mission was simple: track the Ember Chain to their main base and shut it down. But what they didn't know, what no one in the Council suspected, was how big the Ember Chain truly was. The Iron Resolve jumped to the outer rim of Council territory, a dead zone filled with abandoned mining colonies and long-forgotten war relics. It was the perfect place for a secret army to hide. The team landed on Ravik 9, an old weapons depot lost after the last interstellar war. The planet's surface was dry and cracked, with winds that screamed through broken towers. Kale, Jocks, Lyra, and Rilo moved quietly through the ruins. Scanners sweeping every direction. "Movement," Lyra whispered. "Dozens of life signs, all underground." Rilo opened a hatch that led to the old tunnels. The team slipped inside, and what they found was shocking. A massive underground hangar. Ships, weapons, soldiers. Thousands of them, and banners marked with the Ember Chain symbol, a burning spiral wrapped around a broken world. Jocks breathed heavily. "They're not just pirates. They're a full army." "They're getting ready to strike," Kale said. "Okay, not just the Council. Everyone." Then they saw something worse. A massive starship under construction. Unlike any known model. Dark, spiked, and terrifying in design. At its center glowed a pulsing energy core. Lyra scanned it. Her voice was shaky. "This ship, it's powered by stolen reactor cores from Council cities, and it's big enough to destroy an entire planet." Suddenly, alarms blared. They had been spotted. "Get to the surface." Kale shouted. The team raced through the tunnels, blasting through Syndicate guards. Explosions echoed behind them. The hangar began to collapse. Jocks threw a grenade into the control center, delaying pursuit. Back on the surface, the Iron Resolve powered up. Rello triggered the emergency launch as laser fire lit up the sky. The ship escaped just as the entrance to the tunnels exploded behind them. On the bridge, everyone was silent. Kale finally spoke. They're planning to strike the council, yes. But more than that, they want to erase every major race, start over, build a galaxy in their image. Rilo's voice was grim. Their flagship will be ready in 6 days. Lyra turned. Then we stop it before it leaves the planet. Kale nodded slowly. We'll need help. We'll need allies. And so began their most dangerous mission yet. The Deathworlders would have to unite old enemies, cross into forbidden space, and prepare. For a battle the galaxy could not afford to lose. They had 6 days. 6 days to stop the Ember Chain, or everything would burn. The galaxy stood on the edge of war again. But this time, the enemy was not a nation, not a species, but an idea. The Ember Chain's twisted vision of total destruction and rebirth. The Deathworlders knew they couldn't stop it alone. They needed help from those who once called them monsters. Commander Kale stood inside the Council's war chamber, facing a small group of selected leaders. Not all Council members had agreed to listen. Most still distrusted the Deathworlders. But a few came, driven by fear, curiosity, or the chance for survival. Counselor Laron sat forward. You're asking us to trust the same people we feared. For centuries. I'm not asking you to trust us, Kale replied. I'm asking you to fight beside us. Because if we fail, the Ember Chain won't stop with us. They'll burn your cities. They'll erase your children's names. Silence followed. Then, the representative of the Krell species, who had once lost hundreds in a war with early Deathworlder explorers, stood up slowly. My people remember pain, the Krell leader said, but we also know sacrifice. If what you say is true, then we fight. Over the next day, Kale's team worked non-stop, contacting allies, negotiating terms, and sharing intelligence. Each hour brought news of more Ember Chain raids across the rim. Worlds were falling silent. Countdown had begun. Jax trained with Krell warriors on the Council's training ground. He threw them hard and took hits even harder, earning respect the only way Deathworlders knew how. Through action, they may not like us, Jock said, wiping blood from his mouth, but they'll fight beside us. Meanwhile, Lyra met with the Ilari tacticians, exchanging maps and data. The Ilari were master strategists, cold and logical.
Ow.
They agreed to assist, but only under one condition. You will not lead this battle alone, the Ilari commander said. We cannot allow your emotional nature to cost us the galaxy. Lyra's voice was calm. Emotions didn't bring this war. They'll help us end it. Back aboard the Iron Resolve, Kale stood alone in the observation deck, watching. The stars Rilo entered quietly. The fleet is forming. 6 species, 300 ships, not enough. But it's what we have. Kale didn't turn. We're not meant to survive this, are we? Relo hesitated. If we don't win, no one survives. Before the final operation, Kale addressed the United Fleet from the command deck. This is not about Earth, not about the Council. It's about every world that wants to live. We fight not for victory, we fight to stop an ending. All across the ships, warriors of different species, some with scales, some with tusks. Others with feathers or glass-like skin stood ready. Some had never met before. Some had fought each other in old wars. Now they would die side by side. Their target, Viek-9, the Ember Chain stronghold. The planet where the Doomsday flagship neared completion. The plan was simple. Hit them hard before the ship could launch. But nothing in war is ever simple. As the fleet prepared to jump, a coded message arrived from deep within our Viek-9. A voice. Weak. Human. This is Corporal Halen. Prisoner. They're not done. Second Corps, second flagship. Underground, please. The message cut off. Kale's blood ran cold. There's another one, he whispered. The Ember Chain had a backup, and now the Deathworlders had only one chance left to destroy them both. The United Fleet shimmered into the skies above Ravik-9. Like a storm of light and fire, 300 ships. 6 species. One goal: to stop the Ember Chain before their doomsday ship could rise. Inside the Iron Resolve, Commander Kale stood at the front of the command deck, his face lit by the red glow. Of the planet below, "This is it," he said into the fleet-wide channel. "We end it here. No second chances." Across the fleet, captains acknowledged the call. The time for fear was over. The first wave hit hard. Fighter squadrons dropped into the atmosphere, engaging enemy gunships. Council cruisers launched strikes at ground targets. Teams armed with heavy armor and raw strength slammed into the surface like falling meteors. Kale led the ground force himself, with Jox and Lyra at his side. The air was filled with smoke, fire, and screams. "They're guarding the upper facility with everything they've got," Jox shouted over the comms, which means the second core must be deeper. Lyra, scanning her datapad, pointed at a signal beneath a collapsed mining shaft. "There, I'm reading high energy levels underground. It's the second flagship, still under construction." Kale nodded grimly. "Then we go down." They blasted through the shaft and descended into the dark. What they found was worse than anyone had imagined. A second ship, even larger than the first, was being built directly into the crust of the planet. Its power source, a reactor made of compressed singularity cores, would be strong enough to shatter stars. And it was nearly complete. Kale stood at the edge of a vast metal platform. Below, the Ember Chain's elite forces waited. "They'll launch both ships," Lyra said quietly. "One to destroy the Council, one to destroy everything else. And no one knows but us," Kale replied. Fighting erupted in the tunnels. The Deathworlders pushed forward with brutal force, clearing corridors as the team headed toward the core chamber. But the Ember Chain had saved their deadliest weapons. For this moment, armored cyborgs, pulse mines, auto turrets, Rilo was injured by an explosion. Jox had to carry him. Still, they moved forward until they reached the heart of the second ship. The core room, the sight stopped them cold. It wasn't just a ship. It was alive. The Ember Chain had built the reactor into a living creature, a bioengineered being that fed off radiation and pain. It pulsed with every heartbeat. Monstrous. Screaming. Kale stared at it. This thing, it's not just a weapon. It's hate made real. They couldn't let it launch. But the door had sealed behind them. Trapped back in orbit, Council ships were losing ground. The Ember Chain's main flagship, the first one, was breaking free from the surface. Rising into space, Counselor Lyron called down to Kale. "We can't stop it from here. You have to finish it on the ground." Kale looked around the reactor chamber. There was only one way. "We overload the core," he said. Lyra froze. "That will kill everyone down here," nodded slowly. "And if we don't, this thing will kill everyone, everywhere." Jock stood up straight. "And we stay?" "No," Kale said. "You all leave. I'll do it." "Not a chance," Lyra replied. But Rilo, bleeding and barely able to stand, shook his head. "We're not letting you carry this alone." Kale looked at his team. Warriors, friends, family, Deathworlders, born on a cruel world, raised in war, feared across the stars, now choosing to die for those who once hated them. He took a breath. "Then let's make it count." They placed charges, redirected power lines, rerouted the core's feedback loop. The creature at the heart of the ship screamed as the countdown began. Outside, the Council fleet received a message, Kale's voice, steady and final. "This is Commander Kale of Earth. We are terminating the Ember Chain's final weapon. Do not grieve us. Just remember what we stood for." Then the world cracked. A blinding explosion tore through the planet's crust. The second ship was vaporized. The first flagship, still rising, lost its command link and spun out of control, crashing into a nearby moon. The Ember Chain was finished, and the Deathworlders were gone. Silence fell across the galaxy. Then came the tears. Then came the honor. On Viridia, a monument was built, not of gold, but of stone and steel. It bore no names, only a message. Born in fire, fell in fire, saved us all. Slowly, the galaxy began to understand. The ones they feared most were the ones who saved them all. The galaxy was silent, not from peace, from loss. The destruction of Ravik-9 and the fall of the Deathworlders left a wound felt across millions of stars. On Viridia, under a dark sky, thousands gathered around the new monument. Species once enemies stood together, mourning, honoring, remembering Counselor Lyron, watched quietly. They saved us, she whispered to herself, and we never understood their true cost. But far away, in the shadows of Ravik-9's ruins, something stirred. A faint pulse, almost like a heartbeat. A figure moved slowly from the rubble, alone, injured, but alive, Corporal. Halen, the human soldier who sent the last desperate message, had survived. Kale's sacrifice was not the end. Halen knew the Ember. Chain's plans ran deeper than anyone guessed. Hidden labs beneath the planet held secrets, weapons that could ignite new wars or cure ancient wounds. But Halen was not alone. A mysterious figure approached, cloaked, silent. "We have little time," the stranger said. "The galaxy owes your people more than they realize." Together, they began a mission to uncover the hidden truths buried beneath the ashes. Meanwhile, back in the council chambers, debates raged. Some wanted to rewrite history, to erase the Deathworlders' name from records, erase their sacrifice. Others, led by Counselor Lyron, fought to make sure the truth was never forgotten. "The galaxy is changing," she said. "If we remember their courage, maybe we can build something better across the stars." Old grudges slowly faded, new alliances formed. The Deathworlders' last battle became a symbol not of fear, but of fear. A reminder that even the darkest worlds could produce the brightest heroes, and somewhere in the depths of space, the pulse of Ravik-9's secrets beat on, waiting for those brave enough to answer. The ruins of Ravik-9 were silent. But beneath the surface, a storm was brewing. Corporal Halen and the mysterious stranger moved through hidden tunnels. The stranger's face was shadowed, but their eyes held ancient knowledge. "We're close," the stranger said. "What you find here will change everything." They reached a vast chamber, filled with glowing crystals and strange machines humming. "With power, this is the Ember Chain's true weapon," the stranger explained. "Not just ships or bombs, but control over the very fabric of space." Halen's eyes widened. They wanted to rewrite the galaxy's laws, bend reality to their will. Suddenly, alarms blared. The chamber's defenses activated. "You must choose," the stranger said. "Destroy this power, or risk it falling into the wrong hands." Halen gripped their weapon, heart pounding outside. The galaxy waited. The Council was preparing a new era, one built on lessons from the Deathworlders. Sacrifice leaders from every species sent messages of peace, promise, and hope. In the chamber, Halen made their choice. With a fierce cry, they set explosives. The chamber shook. A blinding light filled the room. When the dust settled, Ravik-9 was truly dead. But from its ashes, a new future was born. Back on Viridia, the monument stood tall, shining under twin suns. Counselor Lyron placed a simple plaque at its base. "Here lie those who gave everything, not for glory. For us all." The galaxy would never forget. The Deathworlders' heroism would live forever. Because even in the darkest places, light finds a way.